It's my pleasure to be able to talk about the resource that we've put together to support schools in putting together a speaking and listening framework, a curriculum, in fact, for speaking and listening. In the English report called Telling the Story, there was quite a lot of criticism that whilst a lot of schools did recognise that oracy was a massive issue in their school, that very, very few schools, however, did have a curriculum for speaking and listening. So what we've been doing for the last few months is to really support schools in putting together a framework for speaking and listening that indeed will make up their curriculum. It's actually set up in 4 different areas, as you can see on the screen. The first of these areas is being confident and impressive presenters. The second is helping the children use excellent standard English. The third is increasing and improving their vocabulary. And finally, being attentive listeners. Now, the resource that we've put together has an overall explainer, which is the kind of the theoretical feeling behind it all. It has a specific framework for early years, a specific one for Key Stage 1, and a third basically for lower Key Stage 2, and a fourth framework for upper Key Stage 2. In addition, we've actually added some exemplars for dealing with children with exceptional issues, such as those with special educational needs, and children with English as an additional language, and indeed children who may have such things as speech impediment issues and so forth. So if we look at these areas, under the first one, the reason we put such a big emphasis on the presentational side is that this is something we believe very much that our schools perhaps haven't done as, so we say, confidently over the last few years, as perhaps private schools do. In many, many private schools, I think this is a big part of their curriculum, where they do help their children to be able to present themselves appropriately. I think this is a massive part of the issue around cultural capital in many of our schools. We do have many, many children with huge abilities, but very, very often don't get to the jobs they perhaps deserve in life because they don't have that confidence about presenting themselves during things like interview or actually in group discussions and so forth. So in this particular area, we have really looked at a set of protocols, and we have various charts that organize for them. The protocols basically are, some of them are set on here, just helping children to stand up in front of the class, for instance, when they're actually speaking. Although on the first bit that I felt this may well have children losing a lot of learning time, that hasn't proved to be the case. So we put in some suggestions as how we can actually do more of this in classroom without there having to be a specific timetable area called speaking and listening. What we are looking for is a regular event where children are able to stand up, compose themselves before they speak, recognize that making eye contact with the rest of the class is important, and actually being able to use that loud and proud bit. In other words, really getting away from mumbling and really kind of using the loud and proudness. The other thing that we're suggesting is that the first time children speak during a class during the day, they introduce themselves like, "Good morning, my name is Kyle," as per example. Part of the work we've done is also showing that we can actually coach children to be better presenters. And part of the work I've been doing in schools recently has indeed followed that model. The model is actually set out in the curriculum framework for you, and hopefully you'll find it helpful. We feel, for instance, that it's very important that we get rid of children saying the word like as a punctuation, basically giving them time to think. Mumbling or whatever is another thing we're aiming at cutting out. Alongside that, we've also introduced a whole set of sentence stems for different subjects, which will really support children's ability to explain their learning more effectively when they're asked to do so. Now, I'm actually underplaying this because this is an extended part of the framework that we put together. Lots of practical ideas for each phase to follow and each phase to look at. A second part is the use of standard English. And in this, I'm calling it talkability. And that is actually helping children to eradicate commonly heard phrases such as I go toilet or me toilet in early years, or using, should of instead of should have, and so forth. So we've picked up on, or we're encouraging you to pick up on some of the more common things that you hear in school, and actually working on a system that, for instance, in the first instance, we model it correctly for them, and then that becomes zero tolerance at the next phase. So as an example of what I mean by that, in early years, I go toilet or me go toilet may be familiarly heard in there. That will be modeled back to the children correctly. We also would actually advocate the use of some charts, basically, which just actually really the teachers can and teaching assistants can point to remind children of the correct usage of those. In Key Stage 1, that will become a zero tolerance. So the word talkability is used to remind children when they've actually made that error. Okay, and so forth. Now, I won't go into that in detail. It explains it very clearly, and the chart that I've just put in front of you gives you a very quick feel to what we've tried to do. The third area, as we mentioned, is the improving vocabulary. So what we're really looking at, and we've recommended Mazzano's 6-step process, for instance, for vocabulary instruction. We recognise that many schools have done a lot of work in this area, and we would respect what you've done and ask you to build it. For instance, Alex Quigley's closing the vocabulary gap, and others, basically, another Christopher Such, who I've actually got a tremendous amount of time for, brings that into, and he looks at primary reading and how do we get greater level of fluency in reading and so forth. He has various things, and Alex Quigley also really has some excellent ideas. I haven't repeated them, but I am recommending that they could well be used as well, or instead of our Mazzano's steps. However, what we have done is made some recommendations. This is year 3 and year 4, for instance, where we bring in tier 2 words deliberately in the right sort of level at the right time for them. We also have subject-specific vocabulary, which is introduced at various stages, part of the tier 3 work, and we really expect us to really work, as well as having lots of kind of ongoing activities, which really is supporting increasing and improving vocabulary. The final part of our work is to really ensure that we've got active listeners. Now, we have lots of prompts, and this is just one example of such prompts that we put in at various stages for each of the 4 phases. And in actual fact, we've also recommended some games, such as this one here, which I've actually built in for Key Stage 2, okay? And this one's on building instructions, and the explanations on the top, the diagram there just helps you children to understand what's expected. And hopefully we will get that kind of development of listening in classrooms that much better as a result of what we're trying to do. Now, all we're trying to do in this is to, first of all, to provide schools with a framework, to break that framework up into phase-specific ways of working, and to encourage teachers to really be much more alert as to how they could be encouraging and developing pupils' oracy as they move through the school. I hope that you'll find our resource really exciting and effective. We've worked very hard on doing it. We've done an awful lot of research. It's not come together very quickly. We've taken our time to bring it out to you. And I'm delighted to say that something we were hoping to bring out last September, October has taken us that much longer because we've come across so many ideas that we've tried to put into the framework for you. Hopefully, you will find them really helpful. Thank you for listening.